Hey everyone, today we're going to be taking a look at how to build a DIY retirement guardrails spreadsheet. Within wealth management and retirement planning, we're moving away from Monte Carlo analysis where you look at what's your probability of success to this guardrails framework because it gives you a better intuitive sense of like how's the portfolio doing relative to my plans and in what cases am I able to increase spending versus when do I really need to buckle down and ride things out. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. Oh, be sure to like and subscribe for more DIY retirement planning content. Let's get into it. Okay, so what I want this to be very understandable. Less than 2 seconds for someone to understand the spreadsheet when they look at it for the first time. Less than 2 tabs. I want the data to be public. I don't want to infringe on any copyrights for index providers. And then I want to be able to visualize progress over time. This is a key differentiator versus Monte Carlo analysis where if you have like a market crash, into the Monte Carlo analysis, you can go from like a 90% chance of success down to below 80 overnight. And that to me, it's a big limitation of Monte Carlo analysis because it's a static look. If we can map progress over time, we can see, are we getting close to a guardrail? Are we trending in the right direction or not? So that'll be important. I don't want someone to have a deep knowledge of finance to understand what we're talking about with this spreadsheet. I don't want to mess with different allocations. We'll just stick with a standard issue 60-40 retirement portfolio. And then I want to look at gross spending, so we're not going to worry about taxes with this particular tool. Okay, so I asked Claude to generate a prompt so that I could give it to Gemini to start on our spreadsheet. Pretty good start here. We'll feed it to Gemini and see what it comes up with. So Gemini had its first crack at it. It's not even close. This is a mess, so we'll try and refine it and see what we can come up with. I actually redid the prompt in Claude, and I attached the original paper from Guyton and Klinger, so it had more reference for what I'm actually looking for. So we'll see what it comes up with this time. Prompt was still asking about like data feeds from the Fed and other sources. So I said just cut all that because Gemini was getting confused. So we'll see if this simplified version is actually going to be able to allow us to see what we want to see now. This is not working. I'm going to have to do it by hand. Okay, so we'll do it the old-fashioned way here. I printed out the paper from Guyton and Klinger, and I made some notes, so let's go through them. First one it does, it points out, the failure scenarios describe situations where a retiree ran out of money. Examining these failures can provide valuable insights into early warning signs for a future failure scenario. So think of the guardrails as like a check engine light, so just warning you, hey, you're getting close to the lower bound. The upper bound, of course, is valuable for maximizing utility of your assets in retirement planning, but basically we just want to make sure we don't run out of money in retirement. So in Benjamin's work on the 4% rule, he used actual live return data and different allocations using that return data, which is called a deterministic. And in this analysis, they use a probabilistic. So they take all that data, and then we'll talk about the assumptions they use, but then they run it through a Monte Carlo analysis to actually arrive at the conclusions that they do. So that's important. Is if you see deterministic, that's like live actual fund index data, and probabilistic means it's run through a Monte Carlo analysis. So there could be scenarios that haven't actually shown up in real life, happen in the model. All right, let's take a look at the key assumptions and some of the research methodology that they used in the paper. So it's a $1 million portfolio. They used a 30-year time horizon, just like Benjamin did. Monte Carlo simulation, we talked about that. Talked about the timing of when withdrawals were made and when returns were applied to the portfolio. And then for how the asset classes interacted with each other, they used a Cholesky matrix here. We'll talk about what that is. And then for returns data, they used the Russell 3000, started in 88. The mean log normal return was just shy of 8.9%. Then they used the Fed 10-year and CPI data. Let's dissect those terms and just make sure we're following what the paper is even talking about. Okay, so mean log normal return data. What the heck? So mean is just a fancy way of saying average. And then the data that they're looking at, like test scores and stuff like that, you can map a lot of data, especially stuff that scales from like 0 to 100. It creates this nice bell curve, and it's really easy to manipulate and look at. But financial data tends to skew right. So you have variables that are, bounded by 0 or close to 0, and then they can go up to basically infinity, right? So you have to take the natural log of those numbers just to create a data set that looks more like a bell curve rather than like this log normal distribution. So that's all they mean there. The Cholesky matrix is a way to introduce correlations to the Monte Carlo simulation. So for correlations, -1 means the assets move in totally opposite directions, and 1 means they'd be right on top of each other. 0 is no relationship. So you have to have a way to model that into the Monte Carlo analysis that kind of mimics reality, right? Because there's some actual observed correlation between these assets, so we don't want it to be completely random. Let's get back to the paper. So this author in this paper used the Monte Carlo analysis on like Benjamin's, right? And they found that 13.7% of the trials they used using the 4% rule resulted in a plan failure, meaning less than $1 of assets was in the portfolio at the end of retirement. Now, of those trials that failed during the 30 years, none of them actually failed within the first decade. So that's interesting to note. Researchers also noted that if the withdrawal rate increased by 50% within the first 10 years, then half of the scenarios failed. So if you started at 4% and eventually got it to 6% withdrawal rate in the first 10 years of your retirement, then you got to really watch out. They also looked at the real value of the portfolio, meaning inflation adjusted versus the starting value of the portfolio. What they found was, looking at the inflation adjusted portfolio, if within the first 10 years it got to 0.6 or lower versus the initial portfolio, then you had a 62% chance that that plan was going to fail. Let's take a look at the actual guardrails now. So the withdrawal incomes were reduced by 10% when an early warning sign was reached. So remember, that could have been the nominal versus real portfolio value today versus when we started, or it could be the change in the percentage withdrawal. And 10% is going to be completely up to you, and it's going to be mostly dependent on how much of your budget is comprised of discretionary expenses. The other important thing is they only assume that you're going to make cuts within the first 15 years of retirement. Post 15 years and beyond, I guess they're thinking people are probably fine spending down more of their assets. I resonate more with looking at the percentage withdrawal and the change in that percentage withdrawal from the portfolio over time. So I'm going to go ahead and use that from here on out. There's a table that's provided in the reading, and it goes from left to right. It's like, how sensitive do you want the cuts to be? So if you have just a 10% increase in that percentage withdrawal ratio, then you can cut your spending all the way up to a 60% increase in the percentage withdrawal ratio. So it just depends on how frequently you're comfortable making cuts. Obviously, the smaller band, the more frequently you have to make cuts, the greater probability of success in your plan. So that's what we'll model in the spreadsheet. Okay, let's take a look at the spreadsheet. Let's say I'm going to retire in 2026, starting first of the year. Portfolio at the end of 25 was $2.5 million. I'm going to take 4%, 100 grand next year. I'm not going to worry about any of the data in 2025 because I'm going to start withdrawing in 2026. So really what we're going to do at the end of 26, then we'll calculate and see how things shook out. So let's say the market went nowhere. We have 2.5 million. If CPI inflation was 2.5%, I'm going to be projected to spend 102.5 next year, 250,000. So that would mean our withdrawal percentage projected is 4.1%, which is below our lower guardrail of 4.4%, meaning we can just take this adjustment. We don't have to adjust spending. But if the market went down, let's say 2.3 million, then we would trigger that lower guardrail. 4.5 is greater than 4.4. So we would reduce the spending by 10%. And we would go every year from there. Personally, this is so close to the 4% rule. It is a little bit more dynamic, but really in early retirement, you're going to be spending a lot more variable than this from my experience. I've never actually seen someone follow this to a T like this in person. And, I wasn't able to figure out the graph. So we'd have to work on that to really hit our constraints. But I hope that's helpful in a look at how to build a guardrail spreadsheet for yourself if you're going to be a DIY investor in retirement. Like and subscribe for more DIY retirement planning content, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks. Bye.